Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay up the back? Good. Can you understand my Australian accent? Okay. Good. Well, thank you for having me today. I have 15 minutes to tell you about what is one of the most exciting changes for humanity that you may not know is actually happening. Of course, I'm talking about longevity and the longevity revolution that I here stand to tell you about and represent as a scientist in this field. So my background, just briefly, is I've been in the longevity research field for 30 years. I've watched its rapid changes, and I'm at Harvard Medical School, and I run a lab of about 25 PhDs. And we are pushing the boundaries of what is possible with human health. And it is clear to me, and many of my colleagues around the world, that our generation is going to witness the biggest change in health since the inventions of clean water and vaccines. And what I'm talking about is our ability to control our own biology. And when that happens, and this may only be between 10 and 20 years in the future, we will look back at today, at our current healthcare, and think of it like it is very old-fashioned, if not medieval.
Molecular hydrogen is the key to any of the benefits to alkaline ionized water.
The mechanism that hydrogen uses to leave the body's production of necessary free radicals alone, reduce the harmful free radicals that we don't need, and allow this cellular homeostasis to return.
Hydrogen acts as a therapeutic selective antioxidant. It doesn't change anything with the water, it's just the water becomes the carrier of those substances.
If you've ever spent money on alkaline water, I need you to hear this episode because Dr. Tyler LeBaron, the world's leading molecular hydrogen scientist, author of over 50 peer-reviewed publications, is about to blow up everything you thought you knew. Here's the truth. Alkaline water's benefits have nothing to do with pH. Nothing. The clinical research shows that when you remove the dissolved hydrogen gas from alkaline water, every single benefit disappears. It was never the alkalinity. It was always the hydrogen. And what Tyler reveals in this conversation is stunning. In a Japanese clinical trial, adding hydrogen gas to standard treatment improved cardiac arrest survival from 61% to 85%. We're talking about 24 additional lives saved per 100 patients. Tyler explains how hydrogen works as a selective antioxidant, a redox adaptogen that targets only the harmful free radicals while preserving the beneficial oxidative signals that your mitochondria need. This is the science everyone is sleeping on. Don't skip this episode.
What conditions has hydrogen inhalation, molecular hydrogen through water, what conditions has this been studied for?
There's around 3,000 publications so far, over 200 human studies, Parkinson's disease, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, stroke, cancer, obviously, Alzheimer's, dementia.
You gave hydrogen water to people for 6 months, and they saw improvements in multiple markers that give us an indication of metabolic syndrome.
We found that the subjects drinking hydrogen water had improved glucose levels. In fact, there was even loss of weight, improved BMI. Hydrogen is very different because it actually does not have the physical chemical property to neutralize these other free radicals. Hydrogen can only react or only neutralize the most toxic free radicals.
It almost feels divine, and it's like a divine molecule. It's wild.
God did make the world with a word. That word would be hydrogen.
Today we are diving into the science of hydrogen water, what it actually does in your body, and whether it's worth considering for your kidney health. I'm Dr. Basma Irfan, and if you have been hearing about hydrogen water lately, you're not alone. It's becoming increasingly popular with bottles and machines showing up everywhere, from health food stores to social media feeds. But as someone who spent years treating kidney disease at the Holistic Kidney Institute, I want to help you understand that the actual science says, not just the marketing claims. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is hydrogen water? It is simple, regular water that's been infused with molecular hydrogen gas. Now, this isn't about changing the chemical structure of water itself. We are not talking about H3O or anything like that. We are talking about dissolving extra hydrogen molecules into the water, similar to how carbonated water has carbon dioxide dissolved in it. Here's what makes hydrogen unique and why researchers are interested in it. Molecular hydrogen is the smallest and lightest molecule in the universe. We are talking about a diameter of only 0.24 nanometer. That's incredibly tiny. To put this in perspective, it's much smaller than oxygen molecules or even most antioxidants we typically consume. And this tiny size has some fascinating implications for how it moves through your body. Because hydrogen is so small and has a neutral charge, it can do something that most other molecules cannot. It can cross barriers that are normally very selective. It can pass through cell membranes easily, even those made of fatty layers. It can penetrate deep into your mitochondria, which are the powerhouses of your cells where a lot of oxidative stress is generated. And perhaps most remarkably, it can cross the blood-brain barrier, which is typically very protective and prevents most compounds from entering the brain. This ability to reach virtually every compartment of your bone is one of the main reasons scientists are exploring hydrogen as a therapeutic tool.
And we're going to talk about how hydrogen affects both cancer and then also chemotherapy. So I've got some interesting footage here that I think everybody might enjoy. This is footage from Japan, and what you're looking at here is some cells. The green represents live cells, and they're being exposed to chemotherapy, and all the red is cellular death. So you can see the chemotherapy is like dropping a nuclear bomb on these cells of yours, and it just kills just about everything. Then you have the same thing happening here, except this time they are giving chemotherapy, but they're also giving hydrogen. And this hydrogen is protecting the cells, and you can still see some cell death rate here, but it's very minimal. The differences are quite dramatic. You see the Japanese scientists explaining the differences here between the both petri dishes, basically, and the effects the chemotherapy has on these cells with and without hydrogen. Hydrogen appears to actually protect yourselves from radiation. So let's say that you may be thinking, well, I'm not exposed to radiation. Well, we all are. In fact, NASA is using this technology for their astronauts. And they're doing that because astronauts are exposed to so much radiation in just a 24-hour period, which is actually the same amount of radiation that we get here on Earth in 6 months. So they're getting so much, bombardment of radiation. Obviously, it's really bad for them. And NASA is now using molecular hydrogen to protect their astronauts. So that was quite fascinating. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you're using proper levels of hydrogen, because there is something called therapeutic grade hydrogen, which is usually 0.8, 1.0 to about 1.6 ppm, particles per million. So that's the right levels probably to have. Now, another interesting thing about the effects that hydrogen has on cancer, here's some of the other research that I've read, is that the hydrogen will actually go into the body, and it's completely selective. So it actually goes to, so you have these mitochondria, really tiny cells, and they have the DNA code inside of them. Now, if you have mutated DNA, that's what cancer is. It's a mutation. And then those cells are always replicating, and that's how cancer is spreading. Now, when hydrogen goes into your body, what it actually does is it targets cells with unhealthy DNA, also known as, mutated DNA. And what it does for over 90% of the cancers is it doesn't allow the cells to replicate anymore. Now, what happens to a cell that doesn't replicate? Well, eventually with time, it will die. So that was quite fascinating. It's not like hydrogen is just going to go in your body and start killing cancer. That's not what it does, but it doesn't allow it to replicate. And so that means that in the long term, there should obviously be really good effects on, the cancer. Basically, it would be dying off little by little instead of spreading.
I want to take a little deep dive into hydrogen water and hydrogen gas in general and some of the benefits in the human body. So hydrogen is everywhere. It's very tiny, it's very light, and it has some really, really unique properties. One of them is its property to act like an antioxidant and reduce inflammation. When we look at the evidence on hydrogen water, because there are a lot of pundits out there saying that hydrogen gas in water has
Molecular
no effect
hydrogen
in the
has been
body.
studied
Nothing
extensively
could
since
be further from the truth.
2007, with more than 1,000 published studies exploring its potential effects across a wide range of biological processes in disease models. Doesn't it make sense to support your body and reduce the damaging effects of oxidative stress? Talk to your consultant today to learn how molecular hydrogen can become part of your daily wellness routine.